Hey, what's going on, everybody? Video 44 coming at you with another video. All right, so I was just listening to Ticket TV, and he brought a very good point up in regards to the Lakers possibly and their options with AD and maybe even sending them to Chicago back home and what his ideas would be. And, his idea, Ticket TV's idea, just kind of gave me an understanding of where I wanted to go with the conversation. And that's, what does the situation look like for Chicago if they inherit AD? Should they indeed try to go after the guy that the Lakers have had this year that they've missed all season long with injury and so on and so forth? And I think the answer is depends on what they have to give up. Um, yeah, I think the answer is yes. I think if you're Chicago, you definitely want Anthony Davis. For one, he's a home boy. You know who he is. You know where he's from. You know he's gonna come there with a certain level of intent and love for being a bull. Um, he's an NBA champion. He is one of the few players in this league that can um, affect the defensive end in a way that few can. He can basically do everything when he's right. I think the problem is he's rarely right. And when you bring him in, you understand that you're bringing in a player that's going to miss on average about 20 to 25 games a season, um, maybe even more. And when he's out there, depending on how his conditioning is, um, will determine a lot in terms of your speed on the floor. Um, there have been times this year with the Lakers where he's kind of slowed down the offense. But I also think a lot of the issues have to do with the Lakers playing him at center, and also that some of the plays the Lakers were running were a bit stagnant this year, as we've talked about at length on this channel. I think Chicago would put a different system around him. I'd imagine they'd have a different plan for him, and the way the GM has been making moves up there in Chicago, I'm pretty sure they would be able to get him what he needs in ways that the Lakers probably haven't even thought to do over the last two seasons. Um, but all in all, the thing about Anthony Davis that I've come to understand it as a Laker fan is that he doesn't have that inner motor that you would want from a player of his caliber. He he can do it from a physical standpoint when he's healthy and when he's conditioned right. But when he's not, he tends to be, you know, distant is what I would say, complacent. He's been accused of being someone who's been satisfied with the championship that he's won. And some of that may be not unfair given the fact that he's been dealing with injury and recovering from injury and so on and so forth. I think that obviously can affect your conditioning and what you're able to do. And over time, that can get a little frustrating when you're dealing with that throughout the course of your career in losing seasons that tend to feel like it's going nowhere. And he was in that sort of space for a good 10 years of his career. So he's finally come out of that, and I'm sure he would like to take a breath. And I think when he got to the Lakers, that breath of fresh air smelled very poor, without saying bad words. So I think that's kind of the dynamic the Lakers ran into with Anthony Davis. And even though we won a championship, it was in the midst of a lot of turmoil, obviously, with everything that happened with the crash, Kobe and the victims there. And then, of course, pandemic, sending them into the bubble. It was no point in time where AD was able to actually relax. And then last year, dealing with injury. This year, dealing with injury. So I'd imagine his Laker tenure, though successful, has not been a dream for him. And maybe a change of scenery would be something that he would welcome. Obviously, everything here with the Lakers has been bad. And, you know, one doesn't really think they can believe in the front office right now as it pertains to building a championship team. You know, they've put a lot of questions in the hearts of everybody around here. So if I'm AD, I certainly am thinking about going home or getting the hell up out of here, to be completely honest with you. And you look over at Chicago, you see their situation, and then you see what they're running into right now. I made a video about it just a minute ago. They're going to run into Milwaukee in the first round. They could definitely use a healthy AD. But the problem is what would they have to give up in order to do so? And while that's not something I'm here to really discuss because I haven't done the numbers, I think at the end of the day, bringing in Anthony Davis means that you're letting go of probably a good chunk of what you got going on that's working. So, you know, you're rebuilding a situation, and as they always say, Um, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I don't think the Bulls are broke. I just think they've kind of missed players all year long. That's made it so that they haven't been able to see their full dynamic. But all in all, I think this series will give them an understanding of where they're at. And judging by how it goes, maybe they'll look to make a move at the end of this playoff run. But I'll tell you this: I think they're going to be a whole arms race in regards to this player, Anthony Davis, because although he's an injury-prone player, at the end of the day, he's not just a player; he's a superstar, one of the top 75 players of all time, and one of the very few players in this league who can play defense in such a way without fouling and still have an incredible amount of success. So um, as he gets older, and his father time starts to knock on the door, you'd imagine he's going to slow down some, and it doesn't bode well for what you think he's going to be going forward. As far as will he be a top 10 player going forward, you don't think so, but he'll still be able to affect the defense in such a way and give you a building piece that allows you to have an advantage every single night. I think in a league where length and defense and foot speed and 50-50 balls and things of that nature are so important, you need a guy like Anthony Davis to kind of anchor your defense. Even as he ages, he's still going to be extremely important. The thing about Anthony Davis that I've come to understand as well is that he's not a great rebounder as one would think, given the numbers that he is able to get. A lot of the rebounds that he gets are tip ins, and then a lot of the times he'll get his rebounds just off the strength of his length. But in terms of boxing out and things of that nature, there's a lot of room for improvement even from this point. So I've always said that I want to see Anthony Davis put an emphasis on in the offseason on just working on rebounding drills and working on big man moves, kind of just revamp himself in terms of playing the center position, and not necessarily walk away from the center position, but kind of walk toward it and challenge himself to be better at it. Because, as players get older, you are going to put on more weight. And as you put on more weight, you are going to want to play against bigger players. And judging by the fact that he can stretch the floor when he's shooting well, because this year he did not, 18%, but when he's normally shooting well, his function is to be able to stretch the floor. And as a stretch five, he could be extremely important going forward, guarding guys like Karl-Anthony Towns, et cetera, et cetera. So all in all, you definitely want that piece on your team, no matter who you are. I think the reality of the situation is you should pay whatever his salary is and accept that he has injury issues, and keep him just off of the strength of his extreme length, extreme gifts, and his defensive talent. I think the only team that should even consider trading him in this entire league is the team that he's on. And it's not because there's anything necessarily wrong with him. It's because there's something wrong with them. The front office of the Los Angeles Lakers have very few assets from which to work around LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and building a championship team in a short amount of time as they need to doesn't seem realistic. So he would stand to reason that these superstars will want to move on to a winning situation, and that is why this conversation is relevant, in my opinion. Not necessarily that the Lakers should want to move on from AD, but that AD should be looking for greener pastures. At the end of the day, if I'm the Los Angeles Lakers, I'm only considering trading AD if I absolutely find that I can't keep him happy. That's what I'm looking at. The Lakers do have good reason to trade him. And I've said on this camera that I would trade him as a Laker fan. But as someone who's thinking from a GM's perspective, understanding the piece from which I possess and how valuable it is around the league, getting rid of Anthony Davis because he's not healthy is a poor excuse for getting rid of such a unicorn player. I feel that way about many other pieces around the league, including Kristaps Porzingis, who keeps getting shopped around, which I think is just ridiculous. At the end of the day, these players are like dinosaurs. They're long, they're tall, and they affect the floor in ways that smaller players cannot. And you will have great small players that come through this league, but they cannot win championships in a lot of situations because they need players like Anthony Davis, like Kristaps Porzingis, like Joel Embiid, like Shaquille O'Neal, to help them overcome and give themselves the advantage in playoff series that ultimately go 7 games against players that are just as talented as them. You need these unicorns. And these reasons for letting them go, oh, he's hobbled here, oh my God, he's not going to be able to hold it down for a long period of time, he's getting old, it's a terrible excuse for letting go of players like this because they don't come around very often. Look at Evan Mobley in Cleveland. There's nothing Cleveland should be willing to give up in order to let go of Evan Mobley. There's nothing they should be willing to take back other than another Evan Mobley, for which Anthony Davis actually is, by the way. But at the end of the day, I'm trying to paint a picture here that players like this do not come around very often. When you have them, they give you an advantage that allows you to not only build in ways that just can't be guarded, give you trade pieces that ultimately can give you a future, and a lot of times they really do last long. I think about a guy like Paul Gasol and what he was able to do well into his career. I think about a guy like Robert Parrish and how well he was able to play. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and how long he was able to play. Guys like Anthony Davis, when they're able to get their conditioning correct and they find out what it takes to really keep their body going, they last forever, you know? But a guy like Anthony Davis could be more like maybe a Patrick Ewing, maybe a Greg Oden, and you weigh that against the situation and then you realize there's really cause for concern with Anthony Davis. But at the end of the day, man, he's one of those unicorns. Long, tall players that can do everything. And the thing about Anthony Davis is his shooting ability when he's right, it's unmatched. We've seen him put up 60 points. We've seen him swat 8 blocks. We've seen him pull down 18 boards, and I still think he's not that great of a boarder. So what does that tell you? That tell you this is not somebody you should be looking to trade, and this is not somebody you should be turning away. Everybody should want Anthony Davis 100% of the time. So I've come to the conclusion, as I've made a video most recently about the Lakers, that the Lakers should definitely keep Anthony Davis and build around him. Whatever they're going to build, it should be built around him. But if he wants to leave and go home, for which nobody blames him for, then, yeah, you should probably try to get as much as you can from Chicago. But at the end of the day, Chicago should look to try to keep as much as they can from the LA for a plethora of reasons. But no more than the fact that Anthony Davis has had some injury issues. And that is affecting his trade value because most people aren't thinking about all that stuff I've been saying for the last 12 minutes. They're just thinking about the concern that they have for whether or not he'll actually play and how much he represents on their cap. So, take it for what it's worth. At the end of the day, I know what Anthony Davis is. We already got a championship off of him. And even when he's not as motivated as he should be, when he's getting those 15-point games and 8 rebounds that we really, really hate, look at the score of those games. We usually won. Yeah, I'd be complaining. Anthony Davis didn't do that well. But guess what he did? He affected the game in such a way that the best player on the other team couldn't get a shot up. Yeah, Anthony Davis shot 18% for sure. But you know what else he did? He blocked the shot at the end of the game. Won it. That's the thing about Anthony Davis. Even when he ain't playing well, all he has to do is stand still and reach his arms up. It's going to affect the offense in such a way that keeps him from having their best score as well as he usually does. That type of stuff. Our favorite players that can dance and do all the fun things that we love to see, they can't do that. That's why you need to keep an Anthony Davis. My name is BDF44. I thank you all for watching. I'm out.